finished meeting with my ex-husband.
Oh, Miranda, I'm so sorry.
I guess he's still mad that I stabbed him and his mom.
Do they know that you had your reasons?
They caught me stealing their jewelry and I felt cornered, so I just started stabbing.
Stabbing your husband and his mom is what made you who you are today.
Yeah, I know it was a part of my journey. I guess I just have some internalized trauma because, last week I stabbed Tina in the cafeteria.
Hey, life is too short to live with regrets. If you hadn't shanked Tina, you'd be thinking every day, what if? Now you shanked her and you can move on. You trusted a woman's intuition and you shanked Tina.
Yeah, I do feel like it helped me get in touch with who I am.
Hey, you might not realize this now, but stabbing your ex-husband and his mom and then shanking Tina in the cafeteria may be exactly what you needed at that moment.
I know.
You know I drowned my kids, right?
What? You never told me that?
Yeah, something just came over me and I drove them in the lake and just walked away. Sure, they were screaming, but I knew that I just needed to focus on me.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta be selfish and do what's best for you.
Women don't do that enough. I mean, my mother didn't agree with my decision, but you can't live your life for the approval of others.
You know I killed his dog before stabbing him?
I don't know exactly why you killed your ex-husband's dog, but I do know that the universe doesn't make mistakes.
Everything is as it should be.
Do I miss my kids? Sure, but in life there are no wrong turns, only unexpected paths. And if that unexpected path brought my kids to the bottom of the lake, I need to trust the process.
Yeah, sometimes I just think it was the meth.
Don't say that. Never regret anything that made you smile.
I know, I just could have done less, and sure I have these new teeth, but sometimes I miss my old teeth.
Hey, you didn't lose your teeth. Your teeth lost you. The world's unpredictable. I mean, I want to shank Rebecca, but she's in protective custody. So I'm just working hard to manifest the right scenario where she's going to lunch at the same time we're going to the yard.
You're right. I should just be grateful I got to stab that stupid bitch Tina exactly when I wanted to.
Positive mental attitude. Speaking of which, I smuggled in some meth.
What? You didn't?
It was supposed to be crack, but sometimes a mistake can end up being the best thing that you ever did.
I knew there was a reason they put me in the cell next to yours. Now give me some of that meth.
All right, so there was no particular point to putting that up first. It was just that Posh sent it to me in a WhatsApp chat we were having, and I was like, oh, there's a new feature, and that is that you can just assign something as an intro video. So I thought, why not? I'll put that in, see how it works.
Yeah, I'm sharing the link that we're live because I realized almost everyone I watch who does collabs, they share it out when they're live, not like 15 minutes before, or because what's the point?
Yeah,
I'd forget if I saw something like, oh, I would like to watch that. I just completely forget in like 15 minutes. So
yeah. So everyone's here. Okay, I'm live at the moment. We're still only live. I'm hoping, that's why I was telling you, I've set you as an admin in my StreamYard so that then I can go live on your channel at the same time and we can push this a few times and then we can stop going live on either of our channels. To everybody who's watching on my channel right now, this is for my new channel that I'm doing with Posh every Tuesday, where I'm just going to be talking to him. I will be returning to my own videos, my own interviews. I'm actually back trying to get interviews again. But for the moment, I'm going to be showing these, and I'm going to be deleting my I'm going to be putting my live streams members only after I do them from now on. I've learned why people do that. Do you know why people do that?
So they can say slurs.
It's retention. If live streams mess with your algorithm if you leave them up.
Is that so?
Yeah, because live stream retention is very high while you're live, but it drops through the floor as soon as it's not live anymore.
Oh,
people skip around.
Right, probably. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
That's why they all do it. That's why everybody does it. I was wondering because I saw Destiny live and I wanted to clip something that he said because it was so, even for Destiny, so incredibly stupid that I was like, oh, I want to clip that and point out how stupid that is on my next stream. And then it was gone. The whole stream was just gone. I was like, why does everyone do it?
So you would have to watch it and record it live in order to be able to have the clips, or
and
be a member. Or maybe then you couldn't clip it or something. I don't know.
Maybe he puts it to members only. I'm not sure. But I have some members. The reason I say members only, actually, in my case, is because I have some members who I know. Well, one member in particular who I know, who watches always when I'm not live. So right. I didn't want to tell him, oh, by the way, you're not gonna get to watch anymore.
Well, a lot of things I watch, I tend to watch after they're done. Because, a lot of it is from the US, which for both of us is going to be usually very late. For you, slightly less late. But an hour doesn't do much when it's not 3 a.m., it's 2 a.m. And then it's a 2-hour live stream. So yeah, good luck. So yeah, that's how things are. Have you brought something to drink?
Tea today. Tea.
Boo, boo.
Although I do have shelves of whiskey like right here, but tea.
Right. I brought rakia, so I'll be having that with my coffee and carbonated water and cigarettes, and you basically have the entire Serbian diet.
Is that fruity drink that you were telling me about?
I will not answer that question, phrased as such. But yes, this is plum brandy. It's homemade, though. Pretty strong stuff, especially the plum one. Someone asked, the person asked, what does AF stand for?
AF stand for?
Not sure, but like
Richard,
America
it's as
first, usually.
As like it's cool. It's based as. I don't know if I'm.
AF in that sense.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I thought like America first, like
as
feds.
as feck. But yeah, it's the title. I went. I can't even. What was the title? It was something totally random. What was it again? Alpha AF and drowning in women, I think, is what I called it today.
I should really use certain influences I have on the channel to not let you name things.
I couldn't help it.
It might be effective, but I always think people are going to come here and expect
advice.
Nerds. Right. So I wanted to say you're an engineer by education. Not sure by trade if you do anything with it or just have it. Yeah. So you will have to be a Belisarius call.
Yeah.
Which means I'll have to end up being Tarzan.
Tarzan.
Collect stuff. The Necron Lord.
Oh, Trazan.
Trazan, yeah. Sorry.
Trazan. Yeah. Oh yes.
There you go. There's Buzz. Now you've given him a layup.
Yeah. That's what I called it from now on. It's that fruity Serbian drink.
Yeah. I'll have to have you try sometimes.
I'd love to. I bet it's great.
Like they tend to be over 50% alcohol, and they taste very good, right? So you make them out of anything, as I think we mentioned it last time. I haven't seen someone make it out of strawberries. I assume it's possible because if it can ferment, it can be and has fructose. It can be made into it. So I'll have to see what I can do. Maybe I'll be able to procure some strawberry rakia.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And assuming someone doesn't kill me for blasphemy, that's going to be fun to try. But it still retains some taste from if it's made properly. Obviously, people do all sorts of things to save money, especially if they sell it. But you can really taste like the apple or the quince, or plum, etc.
And is there one particular fruit that's more traditional?
The plum.
The plum.
Especially in my area of Serbia, right? Because plum trees do well in like hilly parts. Not that much in flatlands. But also we have, in my father's home village, we have these semi-wild plum trees. And so they're smaller, but they're very, very sweet. And they're very soft, right? The ones you tend to find in stores would be larger, but also harder and less sweet. And they even have a tint of bitterness to them, which is what you would use to make for like industrial scale or whatever if you don't grow your own. So you get less of it, but you don't really need to add any sugar to help the fermentation process. And it tastes awesome, as I said, especially with coffee. which I'm drinking also, but it's just coffee, water, and ground up coffee. That's it. I hate American coffee culture. It's like a liquid cake in a cup.
Don't you like to do all the long, slow pouring with the cold? I don't know what it is they do. They do all these, and they get
Obviously.
they get their aeropress, don't they? And they, I don't know.
God, it's like laboratory. I can't imagine doing that first in the morning. I've also tried like the drip one, like the classic ones, and they taste like what I'm drinking, but if it was the amount of coffee I put, but in like 10 times the water. So yeah, the way I make it is the way you usually have it in Serbia. It's just you boil water. You try to get it just before it boils, remove it, add like the ground coffee, and then boil it with that, and that's it.
Okay.
You drink it.
Is that like that Turkish coffee?
Kind of. The process is a bit different with the Turkish coffee. But yeah, that's if you had Turkish coffee, this is like that.
Oh, because I went to the Serbian Orthodox Church here in Dublin, and they served me this coffee, and one of the guys there told me it was Turkish coffee.
Yeah, it's often called that even here, but the Turks would probably take umbrage with that because the process of making it is a bit different there.
Okay, very strong, too strong.
It's supposed to be. It's coffee.
Yeah. I was like, woo! It was right.
So women tend to add sugar as well, and I would rather drink my own blood than drink sweet coffee. You have no idea. I've never met especially if it's like a relationship situation. If my girlfriend would drink like sweet coffee, I'd pillory it so much that they end up usually giving it up. And it's just funny to me. It's like, oh, no, it's fine. I didn't know you were a gay guy, but...
Well, you can start drinking your own piss again. You can start drinking your own piss and become a bear, That's there's
right. It's the way nature intended. People who sunbathe their testicles as well.
That they do that. The bears, they're all like, a bear. One of those bears, actually, when he came at me when I first, when I was in all that trouble, he came at me and started
troubles in Ireland.
No, yeah, the troubles in Ireland. But I started getting a lot of hassle from a lot of different bears. But one bear in particular came at me on WhatsApp and started giving out to me, and saying that I was messing up my own karma. And then in a different, I was messing up my karma. And then in a different conversation I had with him, he started saying that the Trinity wasn't biblical because the first commandment says no God before God, God. And
right.
And I was like, you're very mixed up. You're very mixed up. On the one hand, you're giving out to me about my karma. On the other hand, you're sola scriptura.
Yeah, karma is a strict biblical doctrine.
Yeah. I was like, have you thought this through? Have you I don't know if you've thought this through. But
we can safely bet that no, especially from that particular community.
The reason they're in my mind again is because they were on. Owen has been on a interview spree, or he was last week, and he popped up on Revenge of the Cis, which is a show I watch sometimes.
Okay.
And it was really weird because I wasn't expecting him. And the way they do their interviews is they have a whole hour where they're just showing funny clips and doing stuff, and then their second hour they might interview somebody, and just Owen pops up, and the live chat, the way it descended into boner and no, it was all like everybody's gay. You're all you want Owen to it's all sucking off and squirting, and it just the whole thing just descended. And I don't know. I think they can't see it. They're in there thinking they're the good, the true, and the beautiful. But it was just like I don't even know what to compare it to. When a hen party arrives, and they've got all their they've got all their penis lollipops and necklaces and everything, and they're messy drunk and their makeup's a mess. but they still think they're really sexy when they're arriving into the pub. like they're just like,
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm following. Okay.
Yeah, it's like the vision of what they are and what they are is just so askew.
Right.
It's bizarre. They think they're arriving in with their based, good, true, beautiful gravy, and they're just these guys running in screaming about penises. Like it was.
I remember it was like a Bill Burr interview where he talks about how, I'm old. 60 isn't the new 50. I'm just an old guy. And the audience was like, "Oh, no. You remember when you were young, and there was always that 60-year-old who thought he was one of the cool kids, and like slurring because his mind has been melted by alcohol and other things. You're that guy. That's who you are. That's how those people ended up there, because you can't deal with the fact that you're older and you should behave the part. Like, okay, have your fun and stop being, a child, a man child.
Yeah.
And they are like that. I mean, that's sort of every group develops a certain, subset of terms they use. One obvious example would be like Jim Bob's chat. Everyone knows the nub and the different terminology he used, the different impressions he did, and then ends up with a certain phrase, and that starts being repeated. But then if Jim Bob is on another channel, it's not just going to be the repetitions of his phrases and I don't know. I don't want to call it a cult because I hate how overused that term is. They're just dorks, basically. Right. So I don't know.
Actually, that's what Irene said to me, my wife, after the whole thing, because there was a few guys who kind of really came at me with this and that. And I was like, I'm going to go in on them. Like, I was having a bit of fun, and I was like, I'm going to, demolish this lad and talk about his argument and just like make them all, just kind of point out how stupid the stuff they were saying was. And Irene was like, about one guy in particular, he started trying to report me and everything. She's like, Shane, he's autistic. They're all autistic. Right? She's like, it was nice that you found a group of autistic friends, but now that you've fallen out, don't bully them.
They won't stop being autistic.
Right.
Right. Unfortunately, it also breeds the in-group preference. And what really shocked me when I was big into like flat Earth, I usually approach conspiracy theories in like stages, and I was big into it. And I remember reading comments on videos, and so this one stuck with me: are ballers even a human anymore? Like, what? Excuse me? And I made a joke about GTA, San Andreas, because you got the Grove Street and the Ballers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, calm down, CJ, is what I said.
Richard says you have to reach old age first. It's hard to face. You have to reach the age first. It's hard to face old age. Ha ha ha.
I'm the last person you should say that to. I feel like I'm 70. So
it's funny,
I suppose
actually.
I'd be more annoyed with losing strength and stuff, but just being older, I don't care.
Yeah, I wondered when you said 60, when you chose the age 60, was that being sensitive to me when really you meant to say 40?
I was quoting Bill Burr, so you should be thankful to him. He's Irish.
Because the way more common thing that I remember from like my nightclub days and my kind of sessioning days was the 40-year-old hanging around. You didn't I think I saw one or two 60-year-olds, like that was rare, but you would regularly see the 40-year-old guy hanging around.
Yeah. By the way, I've ended up the way things go, how like groups of friends form. I ended up being on the younger side, both here at home and then when I got older, and I started going out and meeting friends. But so both like in the hood, and then later on, I ended up being on the younger side, right? And then the people who were like the oldest were like maybe 6 years older than I was. Right?
Okay.
It wasn't like 15 years older, because we were like 15, 16. And like, okay, why would a 30-year-old hang out there? Like, I'm 30 now. I don't go to seek out like teenage friends.
15-year-olds. Yeah.
Christ.
And it's amazing. Like, it's amazing that people care. That's the other thing that surprises me, is that you get people who are maybe like, it's fine. I don't mind that when like 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds think that like 28-year-olds are really old or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and vice versa. You shouldn't care, like, when you're 40, like me, you shouldn't care what these people think. But I remember being 18, and there was in my college course, there was a 23-year-old, and I thought he was an old man. Like, I was like, who's this old guy in my course? Like,
right. Because like the difference between 50 and 60 is smaller than the difference between 20 and 30. And then, as you go younger than that, 1 or 2 years is more of a difference because you're developing. After that, you're more disintegrating than developing. So that's why it's not that big of a deal. But also, it's very it's very suspicious when these people want to hang out with youngsters, and I don't just think in some deviant manner. I think even if we excluded that, it's some unwillingness to just deal with reality, and they're outstandingly annoying people. Even when you know them, like someone my age, if I knew them, I wouldn't probably want to hang out with them because they think they're young and hip. And as someone who was never hip, I was young, technically. I never cared. So,
yeah. Never young. No, sorry, never hip. Sort of young, kind of young.
Yeah, well, it depends on your definition, like in the broadest sense of the term.
I have no particular context for this, but I had a video I wanted to actually show you, which I thought you'd find funny. And when you said deluded, it reminded me. Hopefully, this is going to be your first time seeing it.
At the end of the day, I was keen to go on another one. She didn't want to, so just how it goes, isn't it?
When are we going to come out and say it? Women are just evil.
Well, I'm not sure that's true.
I mean, joke's on her ultimately, because you're a high-value male. She's only going to get older and less important as time ravages her. I mean, how old did you say she was?
Well, I mean, she was 26.
So in biological terms, she's 8 years past her peak. Lucky escape. I mean, she'd probably end up with one of these soy boy cuck types who doesn't even have a dick.
Sorry, mate, is there a reason why you're sounding like a misogynist today?
Oh no, they've come for you too, have they? The feminists have got my best mate. Don't worry, pal, there's no females around. We can talk in facts and truth and logic.
How's it been since Sarah left, mate?
What? That low-value female? Why would I be thinking about that? A whore.
You sure you don't want to talk about it?
My body fat's down to 12%. I think I'm doing okay. High-value male.
You're a really high-value male.
I had an ice bath this morning. I haven't come in months.
That's right, mate. You're showing her, aren't you? Yeah, you're showing her. Yeah. You're a high-value male.
Yeah. Every month she loses an egg, so her value decreases.
Should we get your podcast on? Yeah, there you go. This one's called Why Feminism's Ruining Women.
That sounds good, yeah.
He's just going through a breakup.
By the way, that happens all the time. I assume everyone's had mate who, like, they had a girlfriend cheat on them, and then for the next month or two, all women are whores, and the worse you are to them, the better are to you. And you just sort of let them ride out. They need to vent because they feel, heartbroken for good reasons, right? And unfortunately, this has turned into an ideology, and what we talk about, both here and on streams and even in our personal correspondences, is that people just get on one side. I am never concerned about a man breaking my heart. So, right, I could be betrayed by a friend, right? But not in a romantic setting am I ever concerned about a man breaking my heart. So the types of behavior the types of behavior that men engage in don't concern me. They're not a direct threat to me. But the way women behave is. So I'm going to focus on that, right? And so straight men won't have that type of problem unless they've got like a sister, a daughter, right, or something like that. When they grow to have a certain level of awareness for it, because someone they care about is actually potentially at threat of being heartbroken, used, or whatever. So that's why you can have feminism, and you can have the manosphere, the red pillars, whatever, because they have a commonality, which is, we're concerned about what women might do to us, and feminists are concerned what men might do to them. I'm using feminism in like a classical term, not whatever feminism is today, which is basically whatever is convenient politically. So, because
or more
nowadays,
so whatever is going to make your Instagram account grow, or your Twitter account grow, or whatever. Not even politically anymore half the time.
3 sons, 30, 28, and 26. I would ban them from the house. Because here's the thing. One of the sayings I'm trying to push as like a common phrase is beware of highly marketable trends. And manosphere is very, very marketable. So is feminism. But it's sort of had the upper hand for quite a while, so people are getting a bit fed up with it. But anything that becomes a trend, whether it be, the flat earthery, the I don't know, obsession over geopolitics or whatever, where you have a very simple take, because it's difficult to market complex things. Not like a mobile telephone is very complex, but you're selling it as a toy, basically.
Yeah, I understand.
So I don't mean complex in that sense, but like difficult to comprehend and multifaceted, which is why cults gain following very much more easily than orthodoxy, let's say, because they hit you with a couple of easy things and you're basically in. Right? With orthodoxy, you can't just read the creed and there you go. No. You need to understand all sorts of things, and then you're in, and then you can develop from within. So that's something that we need to bear in mind. And with the fact that, as I said, I didn't become white pilled on women. I became black pilled on men. Because I used to think, we men, we're pretty cool. And then you realize, no. There's plenty of simps, plenty of violent ones, plenty of manipulators, right? So that's why I hate the fact that people are only focusing on one enemy. There's two enemies, right?
Yeah. And they're kind of equal but opposite in a lot of ways. And it's a very hard stance to take, because it's a very quick way to make your channel become significantly less popular, or your message, when you're not on either side, where feminists aren't going to like you and these guys aren't going to like you, and you're in the middle saying
that's what I say. That's why I say beware highly marketable trends, right? Because it's easy to monetize. It's easy, especially if you get a grievance, and there's genuine grievances on both sides, right? Yes, Beehive says repentance isn't very marketable.
That's a hard one.
Especially repentance in the proper sense, the orthodox sense, which isn't just, oh God, I'm sorry. That is part of it. That's the first step. But it's also about turning your life around in a Christ-centered manner. So, and then you're like, but I don't really want to do that. Can't I just say, I'm sorry? God is very forgiving, right? But you shouldn't aim. Someone sent me, I think Garrett Dawn sent me like a very good presentation by an Orthodox priest. He said, if you're aiming, they come to him, or maybe it was a bishop even. People ask me, how high should I aim? I don't want to aim too high and then, lose hope or whatever. And he said, aim as high as you can. as much as you can take if you can't pull just a little back. Because if you aim at what you think is doable, or enough, you're going to fail, right? But that's, again, not very marketable. And the fact that orthodoxy and repentance, require you to sort of realize the problem is basically you. That is the opposite of victim culture. That's the opposite of what allows these groups to maintain cohesion, even though they don't really have any. They're just upset at a certain thing. But then if we are all in danger of manipulative women or manipulative and aggressive men, then you can form a certain pseudo-identity out of it.
Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how many these rabbit holes, I don't know if that's the correct word for it, but these kind of like ideologies the quick ideologies you can involve yourself in. And that's that's an experiment or a sort of an activity I've been engaging with on Facebook. I've said it to you a few times. I'm in a bunch of random groups and I've been bitten. I've been bitten a little bit by this because I didn't check that they were all private groups. So I've been having a bit of fun. So I'm in I'm in one group on Facebook called what is it called? Accountability is misogyny.
Right,
it's all
right.
about. It's called that, and then there's
I know like 90% of the jokes that are made there. I know.
yeah. There's loads of them, and then I'm in one for it's 2024. No one gives a crap what men think, and so I'm in some feminist groups. I'm in some red pill groups. I'm also in a transvestigation group. That one's I think the most fun, the transvestigation. And they have their slogans, just like every other one of these belief systems, that helps them to understand the entire world. Everybody's trans, basically. If you see anybody in the limelight, they're trans. There's never been a person in the history of the limelight who was not trans.
Again, a new group of hoteps arises. Did you see? There's like a film about Abraham Lincoln called "The Lover of Men," and you can ascertain from that what the question is going to be raised. So basically, was Lincoln gay?
Well, yeah, I presumed.
Yeah. So you can imagine, like, he lived with in the dorms where he was, going through education. I'm being vague because I'm not sure which terminology is proper for that time. He lived with another man. Yeah. Really? You think they were mixed dorms? Is that what you thought would happen?
He had a male best friend.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. No, there's a great one. Actually, I was telling Buzz about it. He called around. Buzz buys vegetables from me every week now. So even when he isn't bringing his daughter up, I still end up seeing him. But he called up yesterday, and I was talking about this transvestigation group, and they put up. Actually, maybe I can find her. They put up two people who stuck out to me. One of them was Colin Farrell, right? And Colin Farrell stuck out to me because I went to the same school as him, right? So, and there's no way that Colin Farrell, there's no way that anybody could have got through my school as a female. Like, not because it was so tough, but because there was just no privacy whatsoever. So Colin Farrell. The other one was, and I don't know her name. She's the black actress from the 1960s Star Trek.
Okay, I don't know her name. I know the face.
Somebody put her up. Hold on, I'm actually literally going to write black actress Star Trek. Somebody put up a picture of her, wearing some kind of an outfit where you can see her hips, like there's no clothing. It's like a belly top kind of thing, and she has full female hips, extremely hippie, right, with very with a very narrow waist.
The good type of hippie.
yeah, very narrow waist, where you're kind of left with no doubt this is a woman. This is clearly a woman, right? And I was
but
interested.
You find one where the lighting is a bit off, and especially here's the thing: as people age, there are certain bones that don't stop growing, especially in the face. And then after menopause, you lose a lot of estrogen and stuff. So older women can end up looking like more like men, right? And even facial hair starts coming in, after
Okay, interesting.
that age. So you can't go for old women, right? And then there are simply women who have more masculine facial features, right? There are certain things you can look at as far as structure is concerned. Obviously, hip and shoulder ratios, but there are also certain. Well, that's a tranny of there.
That's the exact picture, right? So that exact picture was up in the group, and it was somebody who was like, "Okay, guys, look at this picture and tell me they're all trans," right?
Right.
And
By the way, you can look at the jaw. Men have this sort of dip in the jaw, like there's like an angle here. You can check it on yourself. Women just have a flat one going. Like, do you feel the like?
Yeah.
It's not a notch, but it's like a perpendicular.
I know exactly what you're. Yeah.
Right. So women don't have that. That's one of the things you can check, and you can see that it's just because she's, if you're fat, that's not going to show, or if you've got a beard. But when someone's skinnier and you can see just a regular female jawline, but it doesn't matter because there are plenty of people who find evil to be too plain.
Yeah.
It's too boring.
Yeah.
When you realize demons aren't, summoning demons doesn't mean like some dragon-like creature shows up out of a sigil. It's much more mundane.
So Justin Merck must be a total idiot. He thinks that's a woman. Come on, Justin.
Yeah, and we can see from his profile picture, he's that. I'm assuming that's a positive pregnancy test. But we're starting to be worried about you. You think that's going to make us think?
He's a shill for big tranny.
He knows what? Just because he's a potential parent, I don't know if he is a parent yet. Two kids. Yeah. Two kids. So I'm trying to make jokes, but I realize it can become mean very easily. It's ridiculous what these people do, and almost that it's almost the case that the more obvious the wrongness is, they have to dig a few levels deeper to get a justification for their position.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to point out. Is that somebody said it to this person, said, that's obviously a woman. And she said, no, look at the hands. The hands are too big. Look at the clavicles. They're too short. Look at this. And then she said, the hips have just been edited by the secret 1960s AI that they had.
Oh, right, obviously.
And then somebody responded, why didn't they just edit all the other stuff with the AI?
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, well, that's obviously revelation of method.
Yes, exactly. You have these outs. D. Sims mentions Michelle Obama. I would say that's a different case. So by the way, I do believe that they do this. It's just you're overstretching massively.
There's definitely some secret, suspicious people out there in Hollywood land.
Yeah.
But not,
I think there's few
all of
who
them.
aren't.
Yeah.
But the level at which they operate is going to, be different. But you can't then just go. There's also great reward for being the first to recognize a new person. So there's always a how shall we say, a push for innovation, which is how you also get a lot of ridiculous views from like Christianity, because as Father Stephen DeYoung says, papers need to be written. You know? So they find some passage in the Bible and then go make the most ridiculous tangential position, and then start saying, well, maybe if this, because the academia is set up in such a way that it needs innovation, so it rewards it. And that's why a lot of these people will go just, I don't know, type in Star Trek cast, and then look through them and find one because, oh, I figured this one out. Everyone knows about Michelle Obama or I can't remember whether it was Bill
Benjamin
Gates'
or
wife.
any of these,
Right.
any of the obvious ones.
Right. So you need to be the one who gets something new. And as far as like hands are too big and stuff, that varies massively with the classical exomorphic, mesomorphic, and endomorphic, like body types.
Okay, yeah, I know the body types. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So the exomorphic body type is going to have longer limbs and longer fingers, right?
Okay.
The skinny people.
Yeah.
That's why you see skinny people will have that in effect. I remember an ex-girlfriend of mine, I mentioned this, like we had the same, like if we put our palms against each other, like our fingers end up on at the same place, but her palm was like that big, and then she had very, very long fingers, right? So you can have that, and I had an ex-girlfriend whose hands were like minuscule. It's almost sad, right? So that's not the point. The point is there are anatomical differences, but even they will have variability within them. There's variability between men, as we've talked about, like endo, exo, mesomorphic, right? So you're going to have men, like the very endomorphic types are going to have very, very large hips, very wide, I mean, hips, right? So you can't go off of these things as if you just have two molds and that determine just height and the exact body shape, right? So seeing commonalities which are pretty universal doesn't mean that it applies in every single example. But that's not fun, is it? Most science is the most boring thing in the world, but it's much more fun to talk about, Antarctica hiding, Nephilim.
Oh, well, yeah. The Nephilim were just all a bunch of trannies. It's just
how some say they had 6 fingers, that 6th finger was something else. Right.
So actually that was a funny thing in the same group, just before I move off that group, just randomly today, and I meant to screenshot it because it would have been perfect for you. Somebody, obviously one of these edgy atheists, put in a portrait of Jesus and started saying, this looks like a woman to me, blah, 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 the whole thing, right? And then Christians came in, Christian transvestigation people came in and started applying their standards to prove, using this portrait, or using the Shroud of Turin, that Jesus was a man. Because they do this thing where they put a triangle, and if the corners of the triangle go to your pupils and then go to the bottom of your chin, that means you're a woman, or something like this. If it's too, men's eyes are wider set, basically. So they got the Shroud of Turin and started putting a triangle over it and saying, "Told you, Jesus is a man." This was the argument.
Reverse transvestigation.
I don't know. It was. It's I think it's the bottom. I used to think the lawfulness stuff was the bottom of the barrel, but I think maybe transvestigation is the bottom of the barrel.
I remember when I was young, we didn't have internet and stuff, but you had like on National Geographic, because every single one of those channels is now half conspiracy theories and half like pawn shops and we're building a building in this I don't know, redesigning, whatever it's called. Nothing like History Channel is a joke, complete joke, and then you have History 2, which is even more of a joke, but that's what people watch, right? Back in the day, I know there's Viasat History. I think that's Norwegian, and they actually had history on it. It was like, whoa! But National Geographic had these like documentaries, and one of them was Loch Ness, and they all operate as like a Doctor House episode where people made a meme, like show the timeline and then give you where exactly how things are going to happen. You know, he's going to agree, oh, yeah, it's this disease. And then, oh, things still go wrong. And then at this point, he's going to say, I don't care if this method kills him. I'm going to save this man's life, you know. And then he succeeds. So you have the intro, which is like the story of the Loch Ness Monster. You got basic background. And then you get a bit of hope that maybe it's true. And then they spend the entire time debunking it, as if you're going to have giant lizards living in cold, lakes with barely any food. Like, they will literally die in a day if they brought one in.
Yeah. Just even if you brought a whale in or something, right? There's just this
right.
there.
So but then it always ends with, well, maybe there's this shred of hope. All of them are like that. Loch Ness, Bigfoot.
Don't come after Dogman. I'm into Dogman.
That's the one I would personally go after.
Yeah, I've been looking into those Dogman stories, and I believe them. It's werewolves, I think, basically. But
in Slavic mythology, there is it's called a dog head. So it's like a man with a head of a dog, but they're more associated with like entrances to the underworld and stuff. Okay. But the cynocephali, which are like doghead people, have you heard of those?
Never heard of the name, but...
Right. Just,
I've seen the Egyptian pictures of the guys with the dog heads. Other than that,
okay, but they do have a tendency to to present a lot of deities with just heads of animals. But no, you have actual records of travelers, both European and others, who like go to certain places and they talk about these people who have dog heads.
Okay.
So that's fun. Although nowadays, if people just say, "Oh yeah, that's just racism," I mean, come on, that's too easy an explanation. I mean, really, you thought like these travelers, they end up in India. And they're like, oh, yeah, this is fine. Then go to an island, see basically the same people. Oh, look, they've got dog heads. So very,
that's
very selective
myth.
racism.
It's the myth of like everybody in the past was stupid, and that's how we can sort of describe everything. Right. So much progress since then.
Which annoys me to no end, because they were much more rational than we are nowadays, because technology has really nerfed our ability to think and consider things rationally, which is why I talked about like people who think like metropolitans who criticize food production, because you have to kill bunnies, because to them bunnies are just cute, cuddly little things, right? They're not pests and varmints. So yeah.
My daughter figured that out after a few years of me farming here. She was like, oh, Peter Rabbit's the bad guy. Mr. McGregor's just trying to grow some veg. You know,
yeah. Because I am concerned about the fact that so many cartoons we watched were just like animals being anthropomorphized, and then we're all supposed to feel bad about any type of harm to animals. But these people don't meet animals outside of pet shops. What do you make of the werewolf St. Patrick encounter in Ireland? Yeah, there's you have orthodox manuals on how to approach people who have been afflicted with lycanthropy. Now, a lot of things like what we consider vampires to be, like a bunch of aristocrats or something, that's not what vampires are in Slavic mythology. They're more like zombies. Because a lot of paganism has been crushed by the introduction of churches, a lot of the supernatural phenomena that would have arisen with the presence of this demonic forces has also been very suppressed. My favorite example to give is like people who talk about how different going through a forest in Europe is to going through a forest in the US. Because what was done in Europe, you would like go through a forest, you would build a small shrine, like consecration of the land and stuff. That was done all the time, but that is that needs to be maintained, because you've constantly got this spiritual aspect, a spiritual battle going on. The Nephilim were actual like demonized human beings. You know, they, I don't know if I mentioned it here. It's always worth mentioning. Calling them giants doesn't mean calling them like 20 feet tall. It means it was showing that they were powerful and it had supernatural strength and maybe certain other abilities. But even then, we get to like the 5th century and saints who are, you know, confused. Like yeah, if they did it, why don't they do it now? Meanwhile, it's because you have the resurrection of Christ, which sort of makes life easier for all of us. So that's one huge thing. But then the church keeps spreading, and the demonic powers are very weak to it, which is why so few people nowadays even get possessed as compared to earlier on, because pagans actually sort it out. Like ritually sort out being possessed, because for them that was a good thing, right? You're possessed by a higher entity or an ancestral spirit or whatever. Still very present in Africa, parts of South America, India, Southeast Asia, etc. You know, you read from missionaries from there compared to like, Protestants, I don't know, trying to convert Catholics in Europe. Yeah, very, very different experiences. So I wouldn't go with like a Hollywood understanding of lycanthropy or werewolfism, whatever, because it's not like turning into like a separate being or something. I don't know, but yeah, there are these phenomena that happen, and with the growing of the church, they stop, because it's the reason why a lot of churches were built on like pagan holy sites, right?
Okay.
It's sort of like a seal on it and stuff. A lot of churches in Central and South America by the Catholic Church were built on top of these, you know, sacrificial temples and stuff, right? That's not an uncommon thing, and a lot of them the pagans would do the same thing to each other, right? This was like a new thing, like we conquered your gods, we demolish your sacred place, we build our god's temple there, so suck it. And it also helped find a lot of holy places in Jerusalem, because when the Roman Empire was cracking down on Christians, they would destroy like a place of homage. You know, you build a church, let's say on Golgotha. So the Romans now clamping down, and you destroy the church and build like a temple to whichever god. So when the empire becomes Christian, they tear down that temple and build. That's how they found the original cross and stuff like that, because it was kept by the old Christians, and the pagans just buried it under their own temple. But then that temple is destroyed, and you excavate a lot of the relics.
Okay. So D. Sims wanted to know, doesn't the Bible describe them as being quite tall, though, in Numbers, Deuteronomy, and Leviticus?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard you address this before in the past. Yes, but maybe not quite as tall, and that's not the main purpose.
Numbers in old-timey texts were very, very difficult to deal with, because it's basically you have we all like know the alphabet, right? A, B, C, D. So you assign a number value to them, and then that letter represents it. The problem being that people didn't have like a unified alphabet, right? You know, we take that for granted. So different letters can represent different things. So in certain parts, you have certain translations. you're going to have Goliath described as 9'9", but in like the Greek translations, which were more sophisticated, speaking as a language, they were described as 6'6", which would have been massive for the time, because most people didn't really have a lot of access to protein, as we talked about, right? So 6'6" is still tall today, but it was massive back in the day. So yeah, it's still 9'9" would be pretty impressive. But you have people who are like 8 foot tall. I think Yao Ming, who is the NBA player, was 7'11".
Yeah,
which is funny because of the store 7-Eleven, right?
And there's
so
a young
you
guy
have,
now, there's a young black guy who's American guy, I think, who's even bigger.
yeah, enormous. I know he played, I think, in the Olympics this year, and they beat us, bastards. The judges helped them, so yeah. Is this why these gods are no longer in the world? You shouldn't take like pagan gods as like concrete entities. The important thing is you're interfacing with a spiritual entity. There's no way to confirm that they are consistent over time. Every time you approach to communicate with, like, I don't know, Thor or whatever, that you're interfacing with the same entity. It's just that the demonic finds this place to manifest. And they're liars and they seek your destruction. So they're going to get you to do something that furthers that goal. Destruction of humanity and just pain and suffering. So I wouldn't say there's like a Zeus or an Apollo, a Thor. But this law that's built around them makes it seem that it is the case. And they're also not actively being interfaced with as much, not on a global level. It's too big a topic to start now with what spirits level of, levels of angels and stuff. But yeah, they are nerfed massively compared to what the early Christians would have had to deal with. But you have records of like Roman priests complaining that their God doesn't speak to them since the church has been built and stuff like that.
Interesting.
So yeah, there is that.
So Richard Kelly says, I think they were trying to rob the energy by building. Now, also slightly later, well, Richard just said about what you said a moment ago. He said, yep, you're right. And he also said, I better come out, Baron. I'm a pagan. Richard watches my channel quite regularly. So what would you say to somebody like Richard, who's pagan? What would be your answer?
Well, depends on what type. So I don't know what you mean by energy. I guess what I can assume. What I would say is, what type of pagan? I need to know what whom I'm discussing things with. Secondly, I would say that we don't disagree that there are these entities. The church is the Bible is very clear that there are these spiritual entities, that there are the gods of Egypt, that there are the gods of the Canaanites, etc. It talks about punishing them and stuff, right? Not that they are just made up, but that there are actual entities being interfaced with. The thing is, all the pagan places have either an origin story of, I think it's called, it's not called the inheritance myth, but basically you have children which overthrow their father in one way or another.
Oh, yeah. I've read that in the Norse myths and so on.
Not just the Norse, the Greeks, right? You have Uranus, and then Kronos dethrones him, and then Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades dethrone him, right? So all of these come back to like some type of singular creator, right? And for what even St. Paul says in Acts 17, there is this God, and this is the one we worship. You're worshiping created gods. so they're not on his level. They're not the origin of it. And what we would call saints, and whether angelic or humans who have died after the resurrection, right, of Christ and the opening of the gates of heaven, so to speak, that is a proper relationship that they would have had with these entities. But even in Plato's On the Law and in different places, we find that there was a certain shift in like what the gods were doing. So you're going to get a very confusing, how should I say, message. You know, people nowadays would say, like Protestants, like, oh, we are basically pagans. We, meaning like us Orthodox and the Catholics and stuff.
Yeah.
But there was always meant to be a relationship there. There's an entire hierarchy under God, the angelic hierarchy, that is interacting with these people. And the fact that you have the fall then, and now things are being brought back, that is what is happening. So the pagans nowadays, the neo-pagans, are trying to resurrect this old thing which developed from tradition and experience. It wasn't I don't know, like a full abstract system that is then applied. You know, you have these people, they're interacting with this entity, they have a name for it, right? It seeks certain things from them and offers certain things in return. And it is losing a connection with the highest of those entities. And what we are saying as Christians is you need to pull back from the created and to focus on the uncreated. And only then can you have a proper relationship with these lower beings, the ones who are faithful to God, the creator. I don't know if that made much sense.
This is what I suspected. He's an old Irish pagan, so I live by intuition and nature. This is how maybe this is like what Irish paganism is like, but I certainly think that's when I hear pagan, that's what I think. I almost think of it as being like a pre-scientist, somebody who observes cause and effect and then just assigns forces and names to these things.
Well, not. Here's the thing. Starting especially in the 19th century, there has been in Germany. Everything started to be categorized. So there's these taxonomies that emerge. Hinduism isn't a religion, technically speaking. It's a whole bunch of things that are sort of like, well, this is what these people do here. There was no unified Greek religion, no unified Roman religion. Paganism doesn't work like that. In fact, when you had Julian the Apostate, who was a nephew, I believe, of Emperor Constantine the Great, who was still pagan and wanted to stop all of this Christianizing stuff, he tried to create a unified paganism, and it failed because, like, the priests and even the pagan believers were like, "What are you doing? You can't write a pagan Bible. That's not how they view things. It's not a singular thing, and the stories around the gods are not meant to be like exact stories with like the events are not even meant to be often actual events, but a symbolic representation of something. So you can't really turn it into a system. And the reason I say that neo-paganism is problematic is that there is no way to ever adjudicate between anything. There's a debate Jay had with a guy called Boglord Day, I believe. I'm sure it's Boglord. So if you want to look at it, Richard, you can type in Jay Dyer Boglord, right? And he starts talking about it because it ends up being this thing, like sort of like when we debate the atheists, like, oh, I know what is wrong by intuition. So Jay was saying, okay, so why would like homosexuality be wrong? And he starts going, well, because it's about a man and a woman, right? That's not how the pagans would have thought about it. In fact, there was plenty of homosexuality in a lot of paganism. Others, like Norse paganism, was very much against it. Irish paganism had that famous thing where to show fealty to like someone above you would suck on their nipples.
Okay, I didn't even know about that one.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
always wondered why I have that instinct. But it must be
Present
genetic.
me. Right. Saint Patrick talks about it when he was enslaved early on. Right. So
Okay.
not his. This was his first time in Ireland when he was kidnapped, and he refused to do that. But that's, if you think kissing the ring is bad, try sucking the nip. Right, but to them that wasn't some, oh, I am a man and a man should do this X, Y, and Z. No, it's this lived tradition. Right, they didn't view it inherently sexually. Like nowadays, the only thing we think about when it comes to nipples is like babes feeding, and either sexual or like something to do with like piercings. I don't know. But that's the extent to which we associate it. But a lot of body parts, like the heart, we talk about the heart in a different way than other cultures might talk about the heart. In Serbia, when someone is constantly annoying you, especially a mother would say this about the children, say, they're eating my liver, right?
Okay.
Which just means you're constantly causing you're constantly causing me to worry, right? Whereas that expression would have no particular meaning in other languages. And then you come to Greek, like the word Greek for empathy is basically saying you spleen someone. Like it's associated with the organ.
That's associated, with empathy.
Right, but so that's why I say you can't even retroactively, reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
So it lives as this meme in the old sense of the term, and the problem is, if you're a neo-pagan, you're sort of retroactively trying to reverse engineer a religion that's basically gone. And if you say you're not part of any particular club, I understand what you mean. You're actually doing this better than a lot of the pagans you see on the internet, right? Oh, I'm praying to Freya and Odin and this nonsense. And it's like, no, you don't have that anymore, right? They're not sitting around there, waiting to be prayed to by someone. You don't practice, you don't think the way ancient pagans thought. You don't think the way the ancient Greeks thought, right? If you ask them, you mean gods are actually on Olympus? They'd be like, what? They'd be confused by what you were asking them, right? It's not like in like that Disney's Hercules.
It's one of those things that drives me mad when like an atheist makes that stupid, what's he called? Ricky Gervais argument where he says, "Oh, I just believe in one less god,"
Right?
And it's like, no. But the Greeks didn't believe in Zeus, not really, right? Not in the way that you're. He's totally missing the point himself, even in his own joke.
Right. So this is the problem. You have a modern man's way of thinking. Not you, Richard, and this isn't aimed at you personally. You have a modern person's way of thinking because that's how you grew up. And so you are trying to look back in the past and then apply your worldview and then try to get something out of that, which is inevitably going to change what you used to believe into what they used to believe into something different. And this whole obsession with treating it like forensics is nonsense, right? They didn't think of it as forensics. Ancient people were a lot more symbolism based, right? As opposed to us today. We are far more administrative in our ways of thinking, right? We see stories as basically like a textbook, like a collection of facts or a sequence of events described being actual, right? And we have lost a lot of the ways that these people would think, and we have gained many new symbols, how we see them, how they're used. If you talk about Batman, about Batman, everyone basically has the general idea of who Batman is, right? So you're going to associate it with a certain type of behavior, right? Or certain experiences. Like he lost his parents when he was young, and he is focusing on revenge, and he has his methods, etc., right? These ways of thinking are contemporaneous for us. If civilization is lost, and then people find a fragment of one Batman comic, that's not exactly going to allow them to have the way of thinking of what Batman is, and why children wanted to dress up like him on Halloween or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to understand that these were lived religions. Religion is a very modern term as well. That's why it's not just a set of beliefs, it's a way of life. And the ancients were not too big on just what you think. You needed to live in such a way to be taken seriously. Nowadays, it's almost the opposite. All the socialists are rich, all the manly men are cucks.
Yeah. Actually, I have I'm so tempted to insert this now because it's the perfect moment, but I won't. I'll wait. Just when you said the manly men are cooks. Justin asked a question earlier, and I wanted to drag you back because I just got reminded about it. He asked, he was just interested in something you said. He said, wait, we have the original cross of Christ in pieces, I assume.
Yes.
And then Unit X3K, who mentioned earlier he's in Africa, said, I recall reading in the Synaxarion that St. Helen found the Holy Cross.
Yeah, you have. Let me go find something. I'll be right back.
Richard says, yes, I agree with you. I'm living that way and out of society. Champagne socialist. Exactly, Marlena. Hello, Marlena. How are you doing? So anybody else I didn't say hello to? Truth Seeker. It feels like the title has become absolutely irrelevant to what we're talking about, but we didn't really know what we were going to talk about. So it was just we were joking around and sharing memes, and I went with that. So Stupid Ways to Die. Father Spyridon has a piece, I think. Oh, look.
So these are Saint Constantine and Helen with the True Cross. This is a New Testament 2013 edition printed as a celebration of 1700 years since the Edict of Milan in my bishopric, as I said, which is centered in the city which was the birthplace of Emperor Constantine. So that's why it printed the commemorative, New Testaments, and they were given out by the churches, and I got 2. So yeah, that's what I was trying to find. It was in another room, but yeah, and you have all of these miracle working relics, some of which are myrrh flowing. They just produce this very, very well smelling, like an oil almost. And you have priests who just gather it all the time and just put it into vats. They use it for unction, they use it for blessing things, etc. And it just keeps coming out, like for hundreds of years. So it's not a new tree someone cut out and then it's releasing some type of what do you call it, epoxy.
Yeah.
So we have all sorts of miracle working relics, but that doesn't convince a lot of people, unfortunately, which is why we don't go out showing magic things to people. It's something that God doesn't tend to do very often because it becomes very superficial. A lot of good spiritual advisors would tell you, you start going to liturgy, and it's, let's say it's in a I don't say well-funded, that's the wrong term. I mean, like there's plenty of people there. There's enough people to form like a proper choir. It had enough money to be well decorated, right? So you have this very nice church with excellent music and stuff. So you go there and it's this amazing feeling. And then you had to move, and the church there is, not well decorated, right? They have some icons on the wall. They don't have frescoes. The chanting is basically two people who are a bit off key, right? So it's not about the aesthetics of things, but to advance spiritually, you need to be aware of what you're participating in, not just how well it's done on an aesthetic level. And I tie that to the relics, because Saint Nikolai Velimirovich said, God, when men fail, God will rush through dead objects to seek us and to bring us to himself. Right? That's why Christ, even though he does miracles, he's like, don't rely on this. This can be very, very deceptive, right? Ye of little faith and things like that. So yeah, we have relics. They're awesome, but that is a help for us, not the object we should focus too much on.
It just has a question that's adjacent to mine. This has turned into an interview at this point, but just has a question that's
this
actually
is great
adjacent to
dating advice, by the way.
Yeah. He says, yeah, let's be clear, not because I need these things, but because it's a beautiful reality which God has given us. What do you think about Jesus blinking in the Church of Jerusalem? And I actually wanted to ask you, in the Russian Orthodox Church in Dublin, they have, now they don't advertise this, but they have an icon which cried when the churches were locked down by the government during COVID.
Yeah, that happens a lot, and it tends to precede certain very, very ghastly events. We had one,
and they have it on display, and you can see it's like the paint in the icon has turned a little bit blue under the eye and running down his face.
Right. And sometimes they cry like blood, like it's red. And often it's under glass, so you can't
this
really
one's under glass as well.
Yeah, and it tends to happen before a very, as I said, unfortunate event. It can be war, it can be famine. In that case, it was lockdowns, which, sure, war is worse, but that's not how this works. A lot of people were absolutely ruined by this. A lot of children had their educations, greatly disturbed, to the point of finding it difficult to learn to speak because everyone was masked. And following the motor functions of how you speak is very, very important in developing the ability to speak. We don't do it actively. It happens subconsciously, especially for little children. But then, not to mention like all the old people who died like alone.
Yeah.
That one drives me absolutely mad. Like, you had a grandmother who's 90 and couldn't see her grandchildren, and she just died. There you go. And you couldn't see her, probably. Maybe one of you got some level of permission to just go and do the paperwork. So yeah, those things happen. That's a more common event. But the one that's blinking, I saw videos of it with the Holy Fire in the Sepulchre in Jerusalem. That's something that's easy to look up. The first few minutes, I'm not sure if it's minutes, but for a certain time, the fire doesn't burn you. And people say, yeah, they just put like their hand over the fire. There are people who put it on their beard. Like, you don't need to expose your beard to fire for a long time before it just goes away and leaves behind a horrible fragrance. So you have people doing that, right? But again, this might convince some people. But as you said, the church doesn't just go out and flaunt like, look, it's a crying icon. Convert now.
Yeah. And you can understand why, from the perspective of like a an atheist or somebody why that wouldn't be particularly convincing, right? Because they're going to presume, especially in the modern day, they're going to presume some kind of deviance is afoot here, right? This is a trick. This is a
Right,
anything
and
from
it's not like the church hasn't done wrong things.
yeah.
We have corruption, we have certain criminals and stuff. That was never promised not to happen. But if you are a Christian, you're going to be understanding of it. If you're an atheist, you're going to hyper focus on it. And then even when churches do good things, you may be able to look this up now and bring it up. There was the subreddit r/atheism, and they donated like a large, like it's just a rainwater collector basically. It's plastic, like this giant drum of water, and donated it to Africa. And it says this is a donation from r/atheism. It's like, okay, you're comparing this to like what the churches do. Like all the orphanages, and they say, yeah, we know where the Catholic Church likes orphanages.
Yeah.
Because they don't care, by the way. They will find a way, a certain angle to look at events with to make it into the worst thing imaginable. Like I'm not a fan of the Catholic Church. I'm not going to reject the fact that a lot of people there are good people, good believing people as well. The fact that we have doctrinal differences does not mean that I don't think that God is very aware of what every single human being does good. Because from the Orthodox perspective, the only way to do good is to synergize with God. Like that's what we talk about, essence energies, right? To cooperate, to love someone is to cooperate with the energy of love, right? So no good deed is ever done outside of God. That's not to say God is like takes you over and starts puppeteering you into like giving like a tenner to a homeless person.
So you're a Calvinist.
Yeah. That would be a Calvinist. So I'd be a very bad one. But right, and they have hospitals and schools, right? Orphanages, all types of food. What do they call them? Like, what do you call them in English? Like, public kitchens. Not that.
Oh yeah, like soup kitchens or
yeah, like just giving food to like people who are
food
starving.
banks. In America, I think they call them food banks.
Yes, that was the one that was sticking with me. Tarot reading. A lot of these things are very, very new, by the way. The zodiac was nothing like it's used today. Back in ye olden days, but nowadays it's just for women. I don't understand what it is with women in zodiac, but then I realized there are zodiacs for men. We talk about them here.
Yeah, I'm an alpha.
Yeah.
I'm an alpha subtype gamma.
Yeah, the subside. And I wanted to say, I think I failed to mention this before. One of my favorite ironies in the world is that Vox Day invented an entire system, mostly I assume probably to talk about gammas, but then invented a category that is basically the most gamma category ever, but because and I'm basically the peak of this, but I don't even care.
Yeah.
Is there anything more gamma than that?
That occurred to me pretty much immediately. His sigma category. It was like, okay, this is just gammas. This is just gammas who have a good job, or gammas who have a good-looking wife, or gammas who particularly deluded gammas. Like it was clearly this is you, Vox. This is you. This is just your category.
Yeah, it's astounding to me because people really like these, and it ties into what I said earlier that science tends to be very boring. Right? It's very useless to have these categories if you're going to constantly have like a qualifier that's going to change them into something else, but you want to keep the original word, basically. You know, when they say, "Oh, this is neo-fascism," and it's basically nothing like fascism. You just want to keep the word, so because you know
It holds the
both
emotion of
right, because both the Soviets and the Allies defeated fascism. That's a big claim to fame, right? So you just try to associate things, good or bad, depending on what you need at the moment, with a word people already dislike. And that's why you can call it the Zodiac, even though it wasn't what people were doing back in the day. You didn't have astrologers like, oh, this week you should have more luck with finding a partner. Neo-poshism.
neo-fascism. Yeah,
That's like me, but with an American accent.
Richard
Can you do
earlier,
a British accent?
Yeah, kind of. Generally, I can just go towards sort of a kind of middle class, well spoken,
okay,
pseudo British kind of thing.
Because I think it would be hilarious if we did an entire stream where I do an Irish one and you do.
I read to my kids, and I've become quite good at reading.
Oh,
but
not to brag.
Good at reading aloud and doing voices. And so every character in the books that I read to my kids has a different voice, which I will remember and keep consistent throughout the book. You know,
right.
Each character has the name, and it's hilarious because there's times where I always give the example, like for example in Harry Potter that I'm reading at the moment, I'll have to read ahead a bit to know who's talking, so then I can put on the right voice.
Right.
And it'll be something like, you know, Harry hears a voice outside the door, and I'll do Ron's voice, right? And the kids will be like, it's Ron, it's Ron. Like they know who it is.
Oh, you're having spoilers.
Because
okay, so don't do that if you're planning to read The Hobbit to them, because 10 pages in there's like 50 people.
That's what happened to me at the start of the fourth Harry Potter book. There's like 10 men who just pop up for like 5 minutes, all having a conversation in a circle, and I'm like trying to do 10 different male voices with various accents, and it just became very confusing.
Right. So that's I remember my grandmother would read to us when we were little, and she was a Serbian teacher in like the language. Obviously, she was Serbian and was a teacher, but that's not what I mean. But she and a couple of colleagues did a lot of drama for the school, like setting up plays and stuff. So she would really get into it. So I understand what you mean. And I promise you they will remember that with fondness throughout their lives.
Yeah, they try and record it sometimes. They like it. But yeah, anyway, I always revert to some form of kind of semi-posh British accent, but just with different tones. A lot of the time, it just seems to be what pops into my head. Maybe it's because it's Harry Potter, but I don't know.
Yeah, I heard that Rowling, or Rowling. I'm not. I was never sure how it should be.
I think it's technically Rowling. I say Rowling, but I think it is Rowling.
I think so too. So I think she refused to have a non-British actors, right? Because she wanted it to have an authentic feeling of like an old-timey posh English school. So yeah, she I think that's what I heard. I never got into Harry Potter.
She's my favorite feminist by a long shot.
She's earned a lot of like based points in the last couple of years.
She's so funny. It's like when you see like those you know, like a proper like black nationalist who's like super based. He's super based, and you're like, yeah, I like this guy. You know, I'm like that with Rowling. You know, she's a feminist. I'm not into feminism, but I'm kind of behind Rowling.
And in the American black community, like they have a huge emphasis on like roasting, right? I can't forget what they have a term for it. But that's why when you see a lot of black comedians, you look like, because ever since they were like small, they had the whole "you look like," and that's the easiest one to pull, and then you try to make a good roast. So you have the black Hebrew Israelites, and let me just. Yeah, and they're not fond of the non-white races either, So, and one of them, they had this meeting, and some white guy was, a Catholic or whatever. I'm not talking about the event with that high school, even though there is a Native American there. But the black Hebrew Israelite called him Uncle Tomahawk. Which is one of the best insults I've heard. Because they're subservient to the whites.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Uncle Tomahawk. Beehive says the Dublin accent is posh compared to other counties. I think most people living outside Dublin would disagree. There's a lot of Dublin accents. As Dublin accents go, my accent would be considered pretty posh. But I'm from a more neutral, I'm from North County Dublin, so the area that I live in has kind of a neutral enough accent. So it's, it's still a bit of a posh accent, but it's not. I wouldn't say Dublin accents in general are posh.
I sort of made fun of that, like a posh Irish accent, but I've had the posh Scottish accent. Interestingly enough, from an Englishman, Harry Enfield. And then I remember I was on Jim Bob's stream, and there was a Scot who jumped on. He said, "Yeah, basically every type of Scottish accent you hear on television is a posh Scottish accent," and that prompted me to seek out, non-posh, working class Scottish accent. And I realized, oh God, I can understand like 30% of this at best.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was interesting. But I also remember like Harry Enfield and Paul Whitehouse are excellent at accents. I've heard them do like Irish accents, which just sounds like a leprechaun. Until someone, Irish people, started commenting. I literally thought he was saying nothing. Like, he just and then just throws in a couple of words just to make it seem, legitimate. And then Irish people start saying, "Oh, I'm from this part of Ireland. I can't believe how well he's doing the accent." And they started writing translations, basically. Like, what? It genuinely doesn't sound like a language. It's just
there are some. Even my kids will struggle with like really, really strong accents, any kind of accent. But some of the Irish accents that they'd hear, I'll have to go. He said, da, 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 and I'll like explain to them. But it's so funny. It's so funny with the African woman who works in Super Value. They just can't. She tries to talk to them all the time, but they just can't do it. She's got that like Nigerian kind of accent.
Yeah.
And her English is perfect and everything, but my kids just can't understand her. Yeah, Crispy says you don't sound as posh as Buzz.
Ooh, you're getting out posh by Buzz.
I don't know.
I almost said Buzz.
Buzz. I think the Dublin airs probably I do. I don't know. Buzz has a kind of a mixed up kind of accent. He's partly posh and he's got a little twang of not posh as well.
I don't know enough about Ireland's phonetics to be able to discern. I know Harry Enfield did like William Ulsterman, and he said, "Today you have trampled our demands contemptuously."
Posh studying the phonetics.
So I don't know how well I'm doing it either, because that's I've heard people praise his Ulster accent.
I can see that you're hitting those Belfast vowels, but I wouldn't hear you and go, "Oh, There's the guy from
That-
Belfast. I can hear what you're aiming at, but
so there are traces of me being correct. Like I'll send it to you. You can evaluate his skill at it because both of them have done outstandingly well and been praised by locals. So me hearing one skit isn't going to be anywhere near as impressive as what those two actually go through to make like a 3-minute skit, which I really appreciate when people do. They did like they made fun of Dutch cops, and they actually got the Amsterdam accent down just for one skit. Obviously, they were gay cops. To help with the harvest, sure. I don't want to go on the same batch as the Bulgarians because I won't be leaving that mode of transport alive. But if you have like a non-Bulgarian one, I'd be happy to
go. All right, I haven't got much time left,
Right.
so I'm going to shift just for the last little while. I don't know exactly. I'm going to actually text and find out how much time I have. It depends. Is your stream over? Oh, my daughter's asking me. Soon. Is Chloe asleep? There we go. I'm asking her. So we were gonna poke some fun and well, not just poke some fun, but kind of talk about the illogical nature of some of this the feminism for men, the red pilling, which is funny because one of the things I was gonna say was it makes it sound like, and I was even saying it to you earlier, that we're totally like nothing that they're saying is true anywhere along the line. There's absolutely no problem with women. And I get people saying that when I talk about this by myself. You'll get people in the comments going, oh, you just don't know what the women are like now and everything. And it's like, no. It's
right. Because they all go for the club women. I don't know. We have to think of a term for it. This is what I was thinking that stream you did. Like women who go to nightclubs were never trad. Right? They might have been more, I don't know, anti-LGBT right, in the 80s, but that's not exactly trad or sufficient to be trad, right? Because they went to nightclubs. What do you think happens in nightclubs? I mean,
they want to.
I'm asking you because I've never been to one. To me, it's a depiction of hell, having awful music blasted into my ears and being surrounded by like people who are 80 IQ at most. So,
well, you're basically describing it, except I enjoyed it at one point for some reason.
No, I'm sure back in the day, you're a man of experience. See, I'm trying to be nice and not call you old, but I assume it was better when it was disco, as opposed to oots, 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 and just pumping your brain with this horrid noise and not even music, right? So I'm sure it was better and it deteriorated, but like people who thought of that as every weekend we do this, when it's summer break, that's where we are, that you've always had that contingent. The fact is that things are now expanding because everyone's now in the cities. What else are you going to do? And everyone focuses on those. Like if your idea of what a woman was 40 years ago was going around nightclubs, especially like the notoriously bad ones, like you would think the same thing people think today about women. And that's what you get, start interviewing women coming out of nightclubs, so they're also, a bit pissed. You're interviewing drunk whores, and you say, well, there you go, that's modern women for you.
Yeah. David McNamara, he said something earlier, I didn't get it. Now I get it. He's calling us gay for some reason. I don't quite know why. Maybe because we're talking just to each other. I'm not sure. But lads, you better come out now on air. You're having a gay. I couldn't help but laugh. And he said something else earlier that I didn't get, and I guess I get he was calling us gays for some reason. Maybe he's not happy because you said you didn't like tarot. But
Maybe he's
Yeah,
Scottish.
no. That is the
And
that is the funny thing, though. The funny thing is that it's like in the same group, right? When I was giving out about the red pill, you get these guys who will talk about they'll in the same sentence they'll say, "Oh, all these women, they're awful," and they're describing women in the city center. You know, women like these
Right.
kind of like disco, like sorry, not these kind of hardcore sort of like degenerate city women. And then they'd
Yeah.
also say, "There's no way anybody can live on whatever amount of grand a year with a kid unless they want to live outside the city, which is totally out of the question." You're like, well, hold on a
Why?
second. Like, yeah,
Who
yeah, yeah.
told you that? Like, one of the easiest ways to get a girl's attention is to be more of I'd like to live in like less urban areas. But apparently, you know, I knew this girl. God help us all. She's like my neighbor, so I helped her with studying and stuff, like especially with Latin and IT. And I remember, first of all, like it's I can't describe to you how mind breaking it was for me because she thought Germany was on a different continent. That should give you an indicator of what I was dealing with. But you know, my parents know her parents, and if I'm not helping her out, it's I'm going to seem like a bastard.
Yeah.
And she told me, "I'd like to go to an opera. I hate the music, but it's so glamorous." And this is why we invented violence against women, you know. And a lot of them have that mindset, you know. You go to live in a big city and all the flashy buildings because that's cool, that's glamorous, that's demure, whatever they say, right? And then if I thought that's what women were like, that girl, I wouldn't even be gay. I'd go to a monastery. That's it. I just give up on them in total. But that's just not it. These people are the term applies, terminally online. You know,
Yeah.
all of the statistics are from dating apps, or all of the live interviews are from nightclubs and in front of nightclubs. And here's the thing: do people not know that women are also pretty annoyed by a lot of typical male behavior? Right? No, you don't think women are like, "Oh God, he's going to talk about football for an hour now."
Yeah.
Right? You think we're annoyed that they talk about their friends? You know, oh my God, she did this, and you're just thinking, "Wow, I envy the deaf." Yeah, women also have those moments with men because we have separate interests in general, right? So, and they also probably make a lot of jokes, which I would not be privy to. You know, like, yeah, probably a man would hit it with a hammer or something. We're like Neanderthals and whatnot.
But
So
you were saying you were just saying there about the, and I just remembered about the gay. Rather than go gay, you go live in a monastery. There's a certain, but see, even that inclination where you're being pushed away from women, I think there's a certain vibe of that in the kind of the red pill community. And I saw it the other day when I was scrolling and I screenshotted it and I meant to send it to you, but it's these guys talking about, one guy comes in and he's all, you guys are feminine the way you talk about women. You're also in your emotions and blah, 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 right? And when every time it's like you get broken up and you come on here to talk about the cock carousel and everything else. And then this thread happened, and I screenshotted this. Right? So this thread happened legitimately in a red pill forum on Facebook,
okay.
right?
I'm a dude. I go on F sprees after a breakup. Does that make me a B word? No, it means you are hot. Keep going. Okay. Christ almighty. There's a heart react.
There's a heart react. And the heart react is, I checked at the time, it is the guy above, Aslan Asmar. Right.
Aslan is probably Turkish. It's I think it's Arabic for lion or something.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So you know what I mean? So then we're gay for like not being on board like these guys, but like you look in their forums and it's quite shocking at times.
Yeah,
like.
you know that joke, like it's gay to have sex with women because you're too weak to handle a man. they have taken that a bit farther than they should have.
It's men going their own way.
Yeah. It's gay to kiss girls because they've kissed other guys, so it's like you're kissing a guy. There's a more vulgar form of that, but we won't engage in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I honestly, I think people are too reliant on the idea that sexuality is just like a uniform thing. Like, no, unfortunately, all types of degeneracies, even if we're not talking about shifting from like gender to the other one, like people who are only attracted to women, but then like the pegging stuff. Like, okay, is that gay or isn't it gay? It's like a whole philosophical point that no one can. You know the joke you sent me today from that stand-up guy.
Oh yeah.
You know how he finished his joke? Like this is like you can't even discuss things without sounding very gay.
Yeah. Actually,
I think both are gay, but it's not the same thing. You can't just say it's the same thing.
That's the perfect thing to end on, actually. So that's what I will end on. No, I wasn't trying to interrupt you there. I was actually just thinking, yeah, that's the perfect thing because I'm going to test out this outro video feature. But yeah. It is. I don't know what it is that goes on, but
right. But because is it the actions or is it whether you're acting it with the opposite sex? Because as fun as it is to call everything gay, which I do all the time, including like every girlfriend I've ever had, although I don't call them gay, I call them the F slur, like a proper man. You have no idea how funny that is. Jay and Jamie did a stream speculating it might be because of parasites. Possible. You have all types of pathogens that affect the endocrinal system. So it could affect a lot of behavior. But it's just that people rely too much on these categories that they haven't even considered properly. And then think it's so immutable, because it's not. The thing is with pornography, like people go into more and more extreme forms. They didn't even start out that way. That is why the church is so adamant about keeping away fully from things. It's not about moderation. You know, you can watch softcore 3 times a week. As much as it offers, a positive way of behavior, it is actively against negative forms of behavior, because these things tend to accumulate and people just become degenerate. And all of a sudden, it's not about having, sex with the opposite sex. It's about whatever, whenever. It just becomes like Slanesh level of degeneracy. So that's the unfortunate thing, that these things cannot be discussed in any depth, because to discuss them in depth, it needs to be on a spiritual level. But then people, whenever you start talking about this, people like the bears or whatever will find anything you say and try to twist it into their to fit into the puzzle that they've constructed of what the world is. Which means they don't want to solve problems. They don't want to help these people. What they want is to feel better than those people.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody's having more fun, right?
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing. Like when trans people, I think they're legitimately ill. Like they're cutting off body parts.
Oh, of course, yeah.
As much as my first reaction is absolute disgust, and I was like, You want to just do away with them. Like, they're sick and probably have had traumatic experiences very early on, which mess them up. So as a Christian, you should seek to heal. But then you can't, that's much less fun than just pointing and laughing. So
And that kind of nuance makes your perfect system just not feel as satisfying anymore. It's all about feeling like you have everything figured out, right?
It's about having the best fun of all.
Yeah. Nobody is having more fun.
Exactly.
Right? And I still see, I see people, because I still have a lot of them on my Instagram feed, repeating that slogan still. Yeah, and I'm just like, guys, a lot of people are having more fun. Like, just like,
yeah. But
I almost imagine
how many times have they talked about squirting today?
Yeah. And like, I imagine them sort of like rolling back and forward in a darkened room, just saying, nobody's having more fun. Nobody's having more fun. Like, everybody else is gay. Everybody's gay. You're all gay. Everyone's gay.
Like, me and my other shirtless bears
we're the
less
straight ones. Oh, like, I'll never get over that. Like, when watching ROTC there the other night, and then all the bears rolling into the comment section, and it was like a bucket of ice water on my face, where I was like, oh, like, it was just like, I don't, like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but that would fit. But it was just like all these goblins just came in, and they were all just like, squirting, and they were like, oh, you're all gay, and like, it's just like, oh my god. And they're all talking to like, hey bears, hey, like, they're all, it's just, and it's all the same names. Like, I recognize 90% of them. Apparently there's a lot of new ones, but but
that also can be because they're not active, right?
Yeah.
I stopped watching Owen when he went pro-Islam. So it was before a lot of the he has been degrading over time. So that's when I left. Like, I'm not going to listen to absolute nonsense. I gave him like a month to move away from it, because apparently you guys, I did a deep dive on this, which apparently means like watch the video.
Like, no longer than 5 minutes, because
right.
Like, it wouldn't take.
He has to deal with the tomato situation, and it's. I thought, okay, he's going to do one of these deep dives into Islam, which you don't have to do very much to realize how bloody awful it is. Not just morally, but just retarded. And it hasn't happened even to this day. So, but after a month or so, I realized, this guy doesn't research anything. He sort of just picks things up from other truthers and then adds a bit of his own. And there you go. That's a deep dive. And I was disenchanted with the entire project.
Yeah, no, it was. It's just a lot of the stuff was just weird. Actually, one guy came into the chat and was like, in there, like, agitatedly defending Owen's. He just watches a Crow 777 video, and that's it. Oh, he throws in a little bit of Pockets of the Future. Right. He sprinkles a little bit of that on top, and then there's a bit of Quantum of Conscience in there, and
they are the more abstract ones, and he is the more concrete one, and he adds music. So it's unfortunate that this is that is what it is, but it's a whole positive reinforcement loop. That's what makes those types of groups, and I don't mean just him. This isn't meant to just go after him, but that's what feminists do. That's what MGTOWs do. That's what I don't like using actually the word MGTOWs, because I still associate him with the court system keeps screwing men over, which is true, right? But the manosphere, I don't associate them with anything positive. Right, they have these small, microcosms that they inhabit, and they are fully introspective, right? They not in the proper sense of self-analysis, but in the sense of just they care about themselves, and the rest of the world is just there to be like laughed at and mocked, not to be influenced by. And then, as DSim said, it's a Crow 777. I tried watching one of his videos, and it's like, maybe that was Quantum of Conscience. I can't remember now, but like the chandelier in the Hagia Sophia isn't real because it doesn't make engineering sense. Yeah, it's real. It's there. Right? I haven't gone there because why would I go to Turkey? But I know people who did, and they saw it. And you have videos. That's why I'm saying.
But did you see it, Posh?
Yeah, exactly. So I went to see it, and I recorded myself. There you go. Oh yeah, a video, right? So
did you touch it?
Would be for me, I don't know, to pay for them to go to the Hagia Sophia. But it doesn't make any engineering sense, and probably engineers would be like, "What?" I could make one nowadays, but it doesn't matter. It's just all this. What should we call it? There has to be a punch to it. There has to be an impact to it, right?
Yeah.
So the Hagia Sophia, this wonder of architecture, and it doesn't make sense. What else do you think they've done? And it doesn't matter because, yeah,
it's always this. There's no way of ever refuting any of it. Like it's all unfalsifiable. That's like
because
the unifying factor.
It's actually worse than standpoint epistemology. Sorry for using such a big word. You know,
I'm upset. I'm triggered at this point. Epistemology,
menuetics, but standpoint epistemology is sort of like perspectivalism, like rank perspectivalism. But this is even worse. It's like a perspectival objectivism or objective perspectivalism. I don't know what to call it, because at least standpoint epistemology, it is challenging the ability to be objective, right? And that's a very legitimate philosophical through line.
It's a question, yeah.
So it ends up destroying itself, but you know where it's coming from. You know, we all have certain biases, etc., and experiences, and then
it's grounded in some kind of rational query.
Yeah. Whereas this other thing is perspectival, but it's also so objective that if you can't see it, I don't know what to even do. Our ball is even human, as we mentioned earlier on.
Yeah. Or every single person who's ever been on camera in public is trans. And if you don't believe that, well, I guess you're just a normie. I guess you just don't get it.
I mean, that's the easy route. You're probably one of them. You're helping them out. You're in on it.
No, usually it's you're just such an idiot. Like you'll just kind of point out stuff, and they're like, "Have you seen this guy's? Have you seen what was he called again? The Irish guy I mentioned earlier, Colin Farrell. Have you seen Colin Farrell's dick?" It's like, no. Well, then it's a woman. You're like,
right? Unless you go and touch it, like you can't even see if he had like an erection in public and someone took a picture. Oh yeah, that could just be he stuffed newspapers or socks down there just to fool you.
No, somebody pointed out Colin Farrell made a porn, apparently. I didn't know about this, but apparently Colin Farrell made some of these homemade... It was during that whole phase. So there's a video of him naked, and somebody goes, that's all AI.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way to disprove it. And even if you attempt to disprove it, you are suspicious. Yeah, I'd give up on life as well. It means I couldn't pee standing up. And that's one of the best things about being a man. I think that's what feminism is actually about. They can't get over the fact that we can pee standing up.
Yeah, they're just furious. It all started.
I mean, they can. It just doesn't end well.
Yeah. I always use that on if somebody's given out, like when a woman mentions, like, I don't know, men pissing on the toilet seats or the state of men's toilets or something like that. I'll always be like, well, if women started standing up, let's see how messy things would get. Like, you know, it's just
Imagine, like everything would be drenched except the toilet.
yeah, you can't make fun. Women will say men can't aim. I'm like, yeah, give it a shot. Let's see how well you do.
Yeah, there are implements like hopper shaped things that you can just sort of like place there and sort of do it. I don't know. I'm not aware of how effective those are. What the splash rate is, you know. But you know, I think that's the essence of the envy of the women. You know, Freud thought that women never got over the fact that they don't have a penis, so they're always looking for a penis. Right. Well, my theory is much more refined. It's about the convenience of being able to be, especially outside. Like it's glorious. And as me and my friends, we would go out into the woods, you know, we'd light a fire, play music and drink and stuff. That was how we perceived, of a good night out. And if you're a man, you need to urinate, especially because you're drinking beer, right? So it's like large amounts of liquid, plus it's diuretic, so it makes you pee even more than you take in, right? As a man, you walk like 10 paces, find a tree, water it, and there you go. All the girls would have to go like half a mile away.
Yeah. Somebody told me it's called a shiwi.
Okay, that's a great name.
This David McNamara fella is insistent. Is insistent.
No. That's a classic type of troll, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Unironically, I appreciate it. He's sitting there calling people gay. That's what I do all day.
He's sticking to his guns on it, like
exactly.
Yeah, what was it? Oh man, I lost something I was about to say there. Anyway, actually, what I was going to say was I have to get going. It's past 8 o'clock here. Harry Potter needs to be read. There's, despite my gay status, 2 of my daughters are upstairs waiting to be read to, so I'm gonna have to go do that.
Yeah, and I don't want them to start harboring hatred for me because I'm the reason you're late.
But I'll leave you with something to think about, Posh. You mentioned Freud just there. I take a stance. I have a feeling that Freud, everything he said is bullshit.
You think?
I don't like anything about Freud, right? But I take it as far as having no faith in the concept of the subconscious.
Yeah.
So
we don't know what consciousness is, but we know what subconscious is.
Oh, you're on board. Okay, I was going to say you could try and convince me of how wrong I am. I don't believe in the subconscious. So,
well, listen. Just because I don't want to expand into this too much, we do have the so-called autonomous or vegetative nervous system, right? Mm-hmm. So we have
the 2 hemispheres.
Right. So we do have parts of us that are automated, right? If you sleep, even if you're not asleep, like you don't control your heartbeat. And if you went into a coma, your heart would still beat. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a very long coma. So there are things that we have like an automated part of ourselves, and I'm sure it has a level of prioritizing things. If that's enough for you to call it a subconsciousness, that's fine. I wouldn't. I don't think it suffices to be associated with consciousness. I think it's just info being given to you to decide to react, right? If you touch a very hot stove, you're going to react before you were aware you reacted, right? So the body is good at, defending itself. Yeah. But all of a sudden, we're going to start reading into, it's because matter is dead, and so people are seeking death because the matter wants to return to the state of death. That's another Freudian idea.
Or you opened that door too fast and knocked over your mother's vase because you're angry at her for rejecting you.
Right.
And secretly you want to F
all of this nonsense that no one can prove and doesn't need to prove because Sure, it's just the same. It's just like trutherism. A lot of psychology is trutherism.
Yeah, this is it, right? This is it. And now, what really turned me on to this, I studied 1 year in a kind of an arts degree I did in psychology, right?
Which arts?
As in, it was just an open kind of arts degree where I could choose subjects, and I chose some subjects, right? And I did psychology for a year, and during that year, I had to study Freud, right? And this was in my Jordan Peterson phase, you see. But
bad news just keeps piling up.
Yeah. But what I was going to say is, I learned about this, and I'd always heard about his kind of Oedipal complex, right? Which always struck me as being very odd because I couldn't quite make that fit my life experience. But I was like, maybe I'm not understanding it. Maybe it's figurative and blah, blah. But then he has this other complex, which is the genital, what is it called? The genital mutilation complex or something like that. And that is that all women are born with an innate fear that their fathers are going to grape them at some point and make them infertile by destroying their womb. That's one of Freud's theories. It's something like that. Yeah. And that all women, and it's like the genital mutilation, whatever thing.
Right.
I can't remember the term for it.
Yeah, again, truth-tards, like that's exactly the way they think. Yeah. And by the way, a lot of manosphere and feminist thinking is based on such things. Women, they just want to treat you as an ATM machine, and so they... Because, I don't know, do they have normal friends? Like, do they not know people who are not wealthy, but they get along, a beautiful couple, you know? Not even in the physical sense. Just I know many. Okay, I shouldn't say many, but I know some castration anxiety.
That's what it was called. That's what Freud named it. That's the official thing. Like Oedipal complex and castration anxiety was one of his other theories.
Right, and he prescribed a lot of drugs to people. But as I was saying, you know, it's just confirmation bias, and so it kind of makes sense to me, right? But I know women who are widows, right? Who stuck by their husbands, you know, as they were just dying of very degenerative diseases. Like it was like, oh, your shoulder weight has decreased, shoulder size. Well, you're not a high-ranking male anymore. Right? Yeah. And this is another thing I hate. Everyone's, you know, was jumping on the fact like your wife, or if you're a woman, your husband, like should be a friend as well. Like, yeah, that's a lot of life. Is that?
Yeah.
Like a lot of
guys.
Things...
Guess what? My wife is my best friend.
Yeah, that's cringe and gay, but at the same time, like most of the time throughout regular life, your wife is going to be kind of like a friend figure. It's not constant romancing. Like no one can do that, especially you've got 5 children. Like there's a time and a place you set aside for yourselves and stuff.
She keeps telling me that, and I say no. We.
Yeah, you just, you know, burp in front of it, and you know, but it is more like a friendship in those cases because guess what? You're a farmer. You're going to be doing a lot of physical labor. You're not going to be looking your best. You're not going to be sharply dressed and smell of perfumes or whatever. But that doesn't change because that's not just some bloody constant sexual tension and whatnot. That's not what life is. The whole bloody libido and id and whatever ridiculous nonsense that horrid creature came up with, right? It's just not life. I think last time or on my stream or whatever, I mentioned like women used to tan leather, worst job in the world probably. Even in Stronghold, like the video game, when you build like a leather tanner, it's a woman. So, yeah, that was life for everyone. And all of a sudden, we're all looking, look at this ratio and that stuff, like everyone's calculating things, because I think it's part of what they call choice paralysis. But I hate it. I hate it because you can't constantly keep just romantic as if romantic is somehow different. Sorry. So categorically different from friendship that it can't have things in common.
Mm.
Right? A lot of time with your wife is just sitting there and talking. Right?
Yeah.
What you do with your friends, you sit and talk. Yeah, that's relationship, and then you have specificities that are peculiar to your relationship with that person. But constantly having to think like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that because it's my wife, right? I don't know. We don't have time to expand on it. Let's do that next time, because honestly, it drives me.
You could
up.
go on. Yeah, we should get it. We should try to focus down on your feelings better. Because I remember you talked to me about your granddad and stuff to do with it. I don't know if you want to bring that up, but we should get into it. But I'm gonna have to go because now it really is reading time.
Okay,
yeah, and we'll see. We'll talk about it. We'll figure it out, and for next time.
I was a bit busy for this Sunday for the exams and stuff. Now I have a couple of weeks where I don't have to study.
So are all your exams done? No, you have.
I've done
more.
5 out of 24.
Okay.
So
Posh is going to be working for Big Pharma, in case anybody.
I'm going to sell like hormone blockers. I'm going to be selling antibiotics to old people mostly.
All right, I can't. Raid.
Raid. Jim Bob set that up.
Okay, hold on. I'll do that real quick. Boom. Go over here. I think I have it down now. How you do this? I should. You really, if I wasn't stupid, I would have set it up before. You kind of just have to have it sitting there.
And I'm going to berate you for not being as smart, even though I also now just realized that. But you said it first, so I have an excuse.
I go to read. Oh, I actually found it pretty fast today. So here we go. We go over here.
Nice. When my parents went to like an IT course, they had like notebooks, and it just says, click on a button that says this, then an arrow, then this, then an arrow, then this, because neither of them spoke English. So you should do that.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for coming. Liz Antoinette just arrived. Liz, I'll leave it. It's going to stay up. It's going to stay up on the Baron and the Redneck channel, but I'm going to be putting all of my live streams on my channel into the members only area. I'll leave them up for a few hours, but I'll probably moving them on. All right, guys. Posh, I'll talk to you, and we'll figure out what we're talking about next week. And everybody else, see you later.
God bless.
I have a girlfriend right now. Thank you. Neither of us has very good taste in music. So whenever we're about to make love, I put on a random Spotify playlist. And a couple months ago, I put on an R&B playlist. I was feeling ambitious. And R. Kelly came on. Yes, you've heard the news? And my girlfriend was like, oh, no, we cannot listen to R. Kelly. R. Kelly is a pedophile. And now here's the thing, and just hear me out for 1 second. Technically speaking, R. Kelly is not a pedophile. Just give me 1 second. I promise this goes away. Just hear me out. The term pedophile refers to people who are attracted to those that are prepubescent. Then there's something called a hebephile. That's people who are attracted to those in the early stages of puberty, like 11, 12, 13, 14. And then there's something called an ephebophile. That's people who are attracted to those in the later stages of puberty, like 15, 16, 17, 18. But I think the reason we don't make those distinctions is because it's very hard to explain the difference without sounding like a pedophile.